if it's classified, it has a place, and that place isn't next to your Corvette in the garage. By the way, it's also not at Mar-a-Lago. And by the way, it wasn't on your BlackBerry when you were Hillary Clinton. The first time I dealt with this, when I sat on the Benghazi committee with Jim Jordan and Trey Gowdy, when you had senior American officials exchanging classified information across an unsecured BlackBerry, and you had all this stuff in the server up at Hillary Clinton's place in New York. I lived this, where we were trying to unpack exactly the risk she had created to America by doing this. My theory on this one, again, not partisan, classified information, protect it. If it shouldn't be classified, if it's overclassified, fine, declassify it, get it out, release it to the Washington Post, sign me up. But if the decision was that this is needed to protect an American secret or American soldiers or sailors or airmen or Marines somewhere in the world, then for goodness sakes, no one, not a president, not a CIA director or secretary of state, no one should be absolved from responsibility for managing that information appropriately.
So speaking of that administrative state, I'm sure you've seen some of the Twitter file leaks and the emails that went from intelligence agencies to the employees at Twitter. I mean, were they overstepping their bounds? And at what point is that a violation of our First Amendment if the government is, in essence, coercing a company to silence people?
Yeah, you can either have command and control or you can have coercion. In this case, right? And the net effect is identical. I think you can pretty clearly see this was coercion. So lawyers can all tell us whether that invokes the first, right, if you have government action or not. I don't really. Well, here's what we know. We know with absolute certainty that the political actors in the White House were giving guidance to these folks to censor conservative ideas, not viewpoint neutral. Not this is not about keeping the Taliban or ISIS off of Twitter. This is about political actors seeking to manipulate speech in America in a way that promoted a governmental viewpoint. That is dangerous. I'm happy to see that the American people can see it, because in the end, Dave, you know this, most of the recourse, to your point about accountability, most of the recourse comes through political accountability. Justice departments are responsive to the presidents that put them together. While they have a element of independence, make no mistake about it, the Attorney General works for the President of the United States of America. And we can see that plain as day to day in the way Merrick Garland is delivering this Justice Department and weaponizing so much of what they're doing there.
So let's talk about that, actually, because obviously the big thing at the moment are these classified documents. You know, we went through 6 months ago what Trump had at Mar-a-Lago, and the president is allowed to declassify things, but you know, the media was telling you the walls are closing in again, and okay, it doesn't seem as if much has happened. But now Biden's in the midst of one of these scandals himself. What should the policy? What actually is the policy on this sort of thing? Like, one of the things that I've heard Biden say a couple times is, well, it was a small amount of documents, as if that somehow makes it a little bit better. I'm pretty sure you don't want any classified docs out, right? Is that fair to say?
It seems right. If it's classified, it has a place, and that place isn't next to your Corvette in the garage. By the way, it's also not at Mar-a-Lago. And by the way, it wasn't on your BlackBerry when you were Hillary Clinton. The first time I dealt with this, when I sat on the Benghazi committee with Jim Jordan and Trey Gowdy, when you had senior American officials exchanging classified information across an unsecured BlackBerry, and you had all this stuff in the server up at Hillary Clinton's place in New York. I lived this, where we were trying to unpack exactly the risk she had created to America by doing this. My theory on this one, again, not partisan, classified information, protect it. If it shouldn't be classified, if it's overclassified, fine, declassify it, get it out, release it to the Washington Post, sign me up. But if the decision was that this is needed to protect an American secret or American soldiers or sailors or airmen or Marines somewhere in the world, then for goodness sakes, no one, not a president, not a CIA director or secretary of state, no one should be absolved from responsibility for managing that information appropriately. And so I hope this will be managed in a way that is neutral. And I'd say one last thing, Dave, neutral in two ways. One, it shouldn't be political, R's, D's, conservatives, liberals, but neutral also, and I write about this in the book, we didn't prosecute, we didn't get anything to Hillary Clinton. There were lots of young soldiers, young Marines who had made mistakes in how they handled classified information. They were punished. And so we should make sure that you don't get off scot-free just because you have power and influence, and you are punished if you are someone who is more junior, whether you're a GS-12 at the Department of Energy or a young private in the Marines. We should make sure that in America the law is applied evenly, both left and right and up and down.
That would be refreshing. I don't even know if you're allowed to answer this next question, but how do you guys actually decide what really is that highest level classified? Is there a standard policy on everything, or do they bring things to your desk and you have people making arguments for you that you have to make that final call on?
Some of each. So there's a process, a detailed classification process within the United States government. The Department of Defense has a process. The intelligence agencies each have a process. They roughly mirror each other, but decision makers at every level are making decisions about how to classify. There are categories of things. If there are things about operatives somewhere in the world, it gets a certain classified. So there is a rubric designed to try and get these classification levels right. Look at the edge. I'm sure there's people making judgment calls, maybe some of them political. I didn't see much of that inside the CIA. Mostly I saw people trying to get it right. And then there were many, many occasions when things were brought to me, and for whatever reason, I wanted them declassified. I felt it was important that the American people knew. I thought that the risk, whatever that might have been 2 years ago, 5 years ago, was diminished. And so I would send back down and say, we need to declassify this. A little bit of process, but in the end, between the senior leadership and the president, we could always get it to the right level of classification. There were a handful of times I went the other way. I saw something like, what the heck's that doing? At the free space, we need to try to make sure we secure that information at least for a little while.
Are you worried at all that as people kind of see how dysfunctional Washington is, or just how crazy the machine seems to be, as we've, because of technology, we can look under the hood now in a way that you couldn't, say, 40 years ago, that we're not going to get the quality person that you want working in these agencies, because people are just going to say, no, I'd rather be in the private sector. I just see this thing as a big freaking mess. I mean, I understand you're saying there's obviously a lot of great people there, but that over time, that there will be a sort of a draining of that.
Yes, I'm worried about it in two respects. One, in the true sense that you described, good people will decide not worth the candle. For financial reasons, family reasons, who needs the headache reasons, all the above. The second reason I worry about this, and I write about this, and this is why you can't give an inch. That's why I titled the book the way I did. The bias will be that people of the left will say, yeah, I want to be part of government. Mm-hmm. And conservatives will say, I want to go live my life, right? And that bias, I think, already exists inside these bureaucracies. I come from a place where government is something that you look at and you go, yeah, I'm a little skeptical. And the private sector should be flourishing and delivering in churches and synagogues and Boy Scout troops. That's the place America was made. And so conservatives tend to say, I'm good. I'm living here. I'm living my great life in Texas, or my wonderful life in Southern Illinois, wherever you are, and say, what am I going to Washington for? And liberals are dying for that power. And so not only do you have a net decrease in talent that I worry about and excellence, but you'll get a bias. The best people who are conservative thinkers, people who are good operators will say, nah, I'm not going to go do that.
What do you do about that? I mean, that one seems almost unwinnable to me, because that's just the nature of power versus the individual, and you're just going to self-select out because you want to go do something in a functional, free atmosphere, and that's not really the government. I mean, is there any solution to that?
Yes, I'm going to provide the solution right now.
Wow.
To your entire audience.
All right.
Go spend some part of your life serving. Doesn't have to be in Washington, D.C. It doesn't even have to be in government, but different people will be in different parts of their life. Take a couple years, 4 years, 2, whatever it is, and go serve. You can do it as a deacon at your church. You can do that coaching someone's Little League baseball team. You can do it in Washington, D.C. You can run for city council, or even better still, run for school board and go fix the crap that's being taught in our schools today. And so I'm not only going to tell you that there's a solution to this, I'm going to be part of the solution by urging people who share our value system, who understand the Judeo-Christian heritage of America in the most fundamental way, and say, all right, I get it. It's really wonderful to be out here living my own life. But at some point, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 50s, whatever, go spend a little bit of time. This is the greatest nation in the history of civilization, and we each can find a way and a place to give back just a little bit.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of mindless drivel, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.